Hey guys, no surprise, Crimulus here, and in this video I want to talk to you about something that's a very well-worn topic, and that's 2x2 piston doors. And I know everything's been done with these, it seems, across the board, but in particular I want to talk about one wide 2x2 tileable piston doors that can be used as timing configurable tunnels as well, like the one you're looking at here. So I'm actually going to show you two different designs today, but first I want to walk you through kind of the process that I went through and why I even started on this to begin with. So like a lot of people, when you start in Minecraft, you start in redstone, you want to make a piston door, right? Normally you start with a 2x2, and I went through all that just like everyone else, built a big bulky thing, but then I decided I wanted my piston door spiraling, and it doesn't take too much effort before you realize that any spiraling door that you make is going to have to start with this. This is the basic design you need. 4 blocks, 1 piston for each. And then beyond that, you need your edges, so when it's open, it looks pretty flush. So you're going to start with this. Now as a basic redstoner, you know you're going to need to power these. And you know you're going to need to power them in order. So power this one, then power this one, then power this one, then power this one. So you start with something basic. Power source. And I'm going to run a repeater off of that, because I already know what I'm building. You may not think to do that right away, but ultimately you'll come to that conclusion. Now I can throw a piece of redstone dust on top of that. It powers this piston. So now we've got to get that power to this guy. And obviously I've prepped ahead, and I know exactly what I'm going to do. But I can't go directly up to this guy and power it, because that does what I call pinching the redstone. So I have to come out one, and then go up, and then go back. Additionally, I've got to run a repeater into this block to power the dust on top, because otherwise we'd have that same pinching effect. This also gives me the ability to adjust the timing between this block and this block. So then run it over here, boom. Now let's try that. Just make sure we're on the right track. So I put my source down. Sure enough, they go in order. And just to demonstrate that where it's really easy to see. Perfect. So now we need to go to this one. So we just continue along our little path like this. Run our redstone wire. And we haven't yet run a repeater for our timing. So let's put that here. And that should be enough to power the third one. Perfect. Beautiful. And we just continue on around the same way. This time we got to come down. We can't come down here again for the same pinching reason, so we're going to come out one, then down one, and then this last spot, we'll put a repeater right here. Let's get our timing. Beautiful. Now, this is actually fairly compact redstone for beginner stuff. Usually you end up with spiraling towers and all kinds of stuff all over the place, repeaters. This is pretty nice. But like everyone, as soon as you make this, you think, I need to make this more compact. So when you go to start making your redstone more compact, it doesn't take long for you to discover this guy that I'm holding in my hand, the observer, and the mechanic that uses the 0 tick to create what's called a T flip-flop. I'm sure most of you know that. Where the observer 0 ticks this piston, causes it to push the block, but it retracts without pulling the block with it. This is incredibly useful for compacting redstone. So after a bunch of trial and error, I'm going to show you the design that I came up with. And I'd love to walk you through the process of how I came up with it, but it's been so long now that I couldn't really do it justice. So I'm just going to build it for you.
Intercepted vagabond out of hand, fight on, out of hand, forget the protections of the firewall, we get to roll.
There it is. This is a very, very compact 2x2 door. To make it work, all we have to do is power this piston. This is poetry in motion. So not long after I came up with this, I thought, wouldn't it be great to build a hallway out of this? It's already set up. It's one wide tileable. It would be amazing to walk in here after pressing a button, go through the hallway and turn around and seeing it spiraling closed behind me. So here's a little demo that I've set up so you can see how this works as a hallway. Now, one thing you'll notice is this block right here. Turns out that observers and pistons have some kind of weird mechanic. I honestly don't really understand it. If you can let me know in the comments what happens, tell me. But when I put blocks here, sometimes these pistons will fire twice. But it's fine, you just take them out and it works great. So you can see I've got a lot of setup here. But this is the interface. So what I'm going to do is actually trigger it from the other end to close it so you can see what it looks like when it shuts. Oh, isn't that cool? So the way that works is underneath the piston we saw at the beginning here is actually being triggered by an observer under here. And that observer is just watching a chain of repeaters. And each of those repeaters is configurable for a number of ticks that you want to wait before the next door starts spiraling shut. And if you want that to go a little bit slower, you simply add a tick to each repeater, or every other one if you feel like the timing is better that way. And so we'll see it when we close it now. It'll be slower. It's a little nicer, isn't it? So while this is nice and compact and works really quickly, it has this downside that the observers are visible. So my next effort was to work on that. And that brings us to where we started the video. This guy. So this is the second design, and it actually allows you to make the door out of whatever materials you want, as long as they can be moved by a piston. And even these blocks here, they're just the edges. They could be obsidian or something else that can't be moved if you like. This includes sea lanterns, glowstone, which I can tell you are important because this will get very dark if you make a long tunnel. But you'll see there are repeaters on each corner, and each of these repeaters is responsible for triggering 2 pistons, meaning that 2 lines of repeaters need to run to trigger the door from any direction. This piston and this piston face the same way, and this piston and this piston face the same way. I'm going to go ahead and build this step by step and show you kind of how that works. So I'm just going to copy it so you can see as we're going along. We have a glass, 1, 2, 3, 4, another glass. We're going to put a repeater. And I'm not going to do this section of repeaters yet because then you'll see a little bit better how that works. As you can see here, we've got an observer looking at that repeater and another one looking down on it. Above this, we have a sticky piston. Down here, we have a redstone indicating block and another piston like that. This observer actually uses this repeater, so we won't do that just yet. So let's go ahead and fill in around there. It's our open door. Go ahead and put glass in here to indicate that that can be any block really. So you can see we have this shape. We're ignoring all this redstone around the edge, but we do need to do this redstone in the top corner. So we need a piston on this. We need our redstone indicating block, an observer watching a repeater going into it, also underneath it. It already triggered. So let's go ahead and put that back since we're currently building. Then we just need our other sticky piston here. So now let's just see if we trigger this repeater, it moves the bottom 2 blocks into position. Let's turn it back so you can see it. And the top one does the top 2. And you'll see a little bit later we have to make sure those trigger at the same time to make this door work. But now you see how we can make it work. Oh, we've got that nice eerie sound. How we can make it work in that direction. So the issue is, if you open the door on this side, you can set a timer and have it close behind you, but you want to open it from the other side, and you probably don't want it to open from this side toward you. You want it to open the other way. So that's where the next set of repeaters comes into play. We put one here, just like the other side. This guy will go on top of the observer, and we triggered that. And for the same reason that we had before with the fan empowering, we actually need to leave this block empty. It can't have anything in it. Then we'll finish up over here. So when we open this door from this side, we want to make sure we trigger this repeater. Oh geez, we used a non-conductive block there. Let's fix that again. So we want to trigger from this side. We trigger this repeater and this repeater. It actually does two different blocks. It doesn't do top and bottom. It does left and right respectively. So left, see these guys are changing, and right. So now when we tile a bunch of these in sequence, as you can see, they're the same now. When we tile these in sequence, all we've got to do is run a redstone signal through these, and the delay will change the order that they operate in. Now, one concession with this design is it no longer opens in a spiral. But what I found was when you make a long tunnel, the spiral effect really isn't that good for a 2x2 anyway. And to make it perfect, it's difficult to get the directionality and get this look. Because we did get the directionality with this design, but we have to make the observers visible. Okay, so this is a bit expensive with the observers, but it is so very cool, and I really, really enjoy this. So I'm going to go over here to this big tunnel that I already made ahead of time, and I'm going to show you how this works. This is a 10 chunk tunnel. It can go forever, because as it turns out, when these repeaters get triggered, if you happen to get to a chunk that's not loaded, it'll just stop until the chunk gets loaded and then continue opening. So I'm going to just flick these two levers and you see it close. We actually want to see it open though. So it's still going. It's fine. We'll turn it off. And as you can see, that one's a little bit ahead because we haven't fixed our trigger timing yet. But that's okay. We're going to run through here. And you can easily keep up with it kind of half walking, half running. You can adjust those timings to make it faster. And we just have it on a toggle right now, so it's not closing in behind us. You can see this is a very, very, very long tunnel. And you can see it gets very dark in here. That's why I added the sea lanterns. Let's put that guy back. You can design it however you want, of course. So from this side, it looks a little bit more like it might look in your setup. So let's say you have it looking something like this. You know, whatever design you want, but something simple. I can trigger that off from this side, and the same thing happens. I can quickly go to the other side. Boom, ba-doom, 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 ba-doom. Here it comes. And because we have to trigger those manually, there's some delay between each side getting here. So now I want to show you a way to trigger this where you trigger both corners at the same time. So luckily on each side we only need to trigger two, these two. So I'm going to start with this one down here. I'm going to put a block there. I'm going to put a piston on it. And what this piston's going to do is when it's powered, it's going to power these repeaters. Put a lever here. At the same time, I want the same thing to happen on the other side. So I'm going to put a piston here with some slime blocks like this. And actually I'm going to go to the other corner just to make sure we get things lined up. What we want is for this redstone block to also come down over here when this comes up, which means we're going to have a piston above it. And that means that this side is going to have to push a redstone block into it when it goes up. So now this should work. This piston will turn these repeaters on. The slime block will push this up, extend this piston, which will extend this piston and turn these on as well. So let's give it a shot. So as you can see, there's actually still a little bit of delay between them. So how do we take care of that? Well, we're going to have to put a delay here. Or, as it turns out, we can compensate with a little delay right there. So we make that first one just a little bit slower. And how do we look? Beautiful. And it still has that spiraling effect, which is great. So depending on your setup, you can do these however you want. You can see how this works where it pushes the slime blocks in to power the pistons. But the next thing I want to show you is what it would be like to have the door auto close behind you. I'll show you how to set that up as well. So your door is going to look something like this. Maybe you have a platform here you want to stand on. All right, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to use an observer with a lever to trigger. That way we just know that the lever changed. We don't really care about the power of it. We just want to see that it changed. So I'm going to put this observer, say here. I'm going to put the lever on top of it. What I'm going to do is run that into a comparator decay clock and use that to power this block. So coming off of here, this is only going to be a 0-tick pulse, so we need to run a repeater off of here to extend that signal. Let's give it enough to make sure it can power our comparator decay. So we'll build that here. If you've never seen how to make one of these before, there are plenty of tutorials online for comparator decay clocks. You can see how it is right there. And I'm just going to run power off of that into here. That'll power this block. So when I flip this, it'll hold that open for a short time and then close it behind it. So let's go through there and see what that's like to be on the inside. It's coming quickly behind us, so we're going to have to make sure we keep up. But trust me, we can get through here. Believe me, this is one of the coolest things you'll ever do in Minecraft. And if you don't want this flickering like you're seeing on my screen, you're going to want to put your sea lanterns a little more often. We'll have to speed up here a little bit. Awesome. But what's even better is now we can do our levers and just go right back the other way. We can set up our little slime redstone piston thing on that side and do the same to make them not go like this. But how cool is this? I could do this all day. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial for these bidirectional, one-wide, tileable, compact 2x2 piston doors designed by me, Crimulus. I hope you have a great time building with them. But I had so much fun making these and so much fun showing them to you guys. This is the 4th tutorial in a series of 5. If you enjoyed it, come see me over on Twitch. I stream pretty regularly. And otherwise, we'll see you in the next one.